Somewhere right now, someone is sitting at a desk, phone within reach, 6 tabs open, telling themselves they're working. They'll finish the day exhausted. They'll have almost nothing to show for it. And they won't understand why, because from the outside, it looked exactly like effort. This is the exact problem one computer science professor set out to explain, and once you understand his answer, you can't unsee it in your own life. The professor is Cal Newport, and the book is Deep Work. Newport's argument is built on a single, sharp distinction, and almost everything else in his book flows from it. There is deep work, and there is shallow work, and most people spend their days drowning in the second, while believing they're doing the first. Deep work is professional activity performed in a state of distraction-free concentration, pushing your cognitive abilities to their absolute limit. It creates new value. It's hard to replicate. It's the kind of thinking that produces something genuinely difficult to produce. Shallow work is the opposite. Logistical, non-demanding tasks, often done while distracted. Answering emails, sitting in status meetings, reacting to notifications. Shallow work can fill an entire day and still leave nothing of lasting value behind, because none of it required your full cognitive capacity in the first place. It just required your presence. That distinction sets up what Newport calls the deep work hypothesis, and it's the engine driving the entire book. The ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare at exactly the same moment it's becoming increasingly valuable. Rare because the always connected, notification-driven modern workplace is engineered to fragment attention constantly. Valuable because the two core skills that determine who thrives in a knowledge economy both depend entirely on the capacity for sustained, undistracted focus. Those two skills are worth naming precisely because Newport is specific about them. First, the ability to quickly master hard, complex material. Second, the ability to produce at an elite level, in both quality and speed. Neither of these skills can be developed through shallow, fragmented attention. Both require the kind of deep, uninterrupted concentration that most modern work environments have quietly made almost impossible to sustain. If the economy increasingly rewards these two abilities, and fewer people are capable of the deep work required to build them, then the people who do cultivate this capacity gain an outsized advantage, not because they're smarter, but because they've kept a skill alive that almost everyone else has let atrophy. So why has something this valuable become so rare? Newport lays out several forces working against it, and the first is what he calls the metric black hole. The negative effects of shifting attention constantly toward shallow tasks, toward email and messaging and meetings, are almost impossible to measure directly. Nobody can produce a clean number showing exactly how much deep, valuable output was lost to a day full of small interruptions. Because that cost is invisible, businesses have no natural pressure to protect against it, and shallow behaviors spread unchecked, simply because nothing is visibly punishing them. This connects to a second force Newport identifies, something he calls the principle of least resistance. In the absence of clear feedback about what actually produces value, people in a business setting default to whatever behavior feels easiest in the moment. Answering an email feels productive. It's fast, it's clear, it produces a visible action. Sitting in silence for 2 hours wrestling with a genuinely hard problem feels, by comparison, uncertain and uncomfortable. So the easier behavior wins by default, not because it's more valuable, but because it's less effortful, and there's no mechanism actively correcting for that bias. Layered on top of this is something Newport calls busyness as a proxy for productivity. In the absence of clear evidence of what's actually valuable, many professionals fall back on visible activity itself as a stand-in for real productivity. Answering messages instantly, staying constantly available, filling a calendar with meetings. All of it looks like commitment, even when none of it produces anything that couldn't have been produced by someone with a fraction of the effort, if that effort had been protected and focused instead of scattered. There's one more cultural force Newport names directly, and it's the one most people will recognize instantly in their own daily habits. The rise of what he calls the culture of connectivity, the belief, rarely examined, that any tool offering any conceivable benefit should be used, regardless of the cost it imposes on attention. This is what Newport calls the any-benefit mindset, and it stands in direct opposition to what he argues is the more useful approach, the craftsman approach to tool selection. Under the any-benefit mindset, a tool gets adopted the instant someone can point to a single potential upside, no matter how small, without ever weighing that upside against the real cost the tool imposes on sustained attention. The craftsman approach flips this entirely. A tool only earns a place in your working life if its positive impacts substantially outweigh its negative ones, evaluated honestly. Not just theoretically possible benefits weighed against nothing. Having built the case for why deep work matters and why it's disappearing, Newport spends the rest of the book laying out exactly how to reclaim it, structured around 4 specific rules, and the first is the most direct. Work deeply, deliberately, as a discipline, rather than something you hope will simply happen when you feel inspired. The first tool under this rule is the idea of a fixed ritual. Newport argues that relying on willpower alone to enter a state of deep concentration is unreliable, because willpower is a limited resource that depletes throughout the day. A ritual removes the decision-making from the equation. Where you'll work, how long you'll work, what conditions surround the work, all decided in advance so that once the ritual begins, the mind doesn't have to negotiate with itself about whether now is really the time to focus. It simply already knows. Newport also describes what he calls grand gestures, a dramatic, deliberate change in environment or circumstance, undertaken specifically to signal to your own mind that the work ahead deserves an unusual level of commitment. The psychological weight of the gesture itself, the sense that real investment has been made, tends to intensify the seriousness with which the following work gets treated. Alongside these personal rituals, Newport borrows a framework originally developed for business execution, called the 4 disciplines of execution, and argues it applies directly to protecting deep work. The first discipline is focusing on the wildly important, narrowing your deep efforts down to a small number of ambitious goals, rather than diffusing focus across too many priorities at once. The second is acting on lead measures rather than lag measures, meaning tracking the specific behaviors that predict future success, like hours spent in deep concentration, rather than only tracking outcomes that arrive too late to adjust course. The third is keeping a compelling scoreboard, a visible, simple record of those lead measures, because visible progress changes how seriously a goal gets treated. And the fourth is creating a rhythm of accountability, a regular, recurring check-in against the goal, so that intentions don't quietly dissolve without ever being reviewed. The second rule Newport lays out is embrace boredom, and it directly targets a habit so common it barely registers as a habit at all. Reaching for a phone the instant a moment of boredom appears. Newport's argument is that this constant escape from boredom actively damages your ability to concentrate later, because the mind is essentially being trained, repetition after repetition, to expect a distraction the moment attention gets even slightly uncomfortable. If your brain has been conditioned to seek novelty at every small lull, it will struggle intensely when asked to sit with a single hard problem for an extended, undistracted stretch, because that exact discomfort is the one it's been trained to immediately escape. His proposed fix inverts the usual approach. Rather than scheduling occasional breaks from distraction, Newport suggests scheduling occasional breaks from focus instead, deliberately keeping distraction contained to specific, planned windows, so that the default state of your attention throughout the rest of the day remains undistracted, rather than the reverse. This retrains the underlying capacity for sustained concentration, the same way physical training rebuilds a muscle. Concentration, in Newport's framing, isn't a fixed trait some people simply have and others don't. It's a skill, built or eroded through repeated practice, and most modern habits are quietly eroding it every single day. There's one more piece of the embrace boredom rule worth pulling out on its own, because it corrects a common misreading of what deep work actually demands. Newport isn't arguing for constant, unbroken effort. He specifically defends the value of genuine downtime, backed by research on attention restoration, which shows that deliberate rest from directed concentration actually replenishes the finite resource that deep work depends on. Attention, in this framing, behaves like a resource that gets depleted through use and restored through actual rest, not through switching to a different kind of stimulation, like scrolling, which still consumes the same limited attentional resource rather than replenishing it. This means the goal isn't simply to work every possible hour without pause. It's to draw a sharp line between genuine rest, which restores the capacity for depth, and shallow distraction disguised as rest, which drains that same capacity further. Newport is explicit that professionals who never allow themselves real downtime aren't actually protecting their deep work capacity. They're quietly eroding it, because sustained focus without adequate recovery degrades the very resource it depends on. Protecting deep work, in his framing, requires protecting genuine rest with nearly the same discipline used to protect the work itself. The third rule is more provocative, and Newport states it without much softening. Quit social media, or at minimum, subject every platform to the same craftsman evaluation applied to any other tool. Not asked, does this offer any conceivable benefit? Asked instead, does this platform's benefit to my most important goals genuinely outweigh the attention it costs me? Most people, Newport argues, have never actually run this evaluation. They've simply adopted every new platform by default, under the any benefit mindset, without ever weighing the real, cumulative cost against the actual, honestly assessed benefit. The fourth and final rule is drain the shallows, and it's about deliberately minimizing the volume of low-value, fragmented work that crowds out the space deep work requires. Newport suggests scheduling every hour of the working day in advance, not as a rigid, unbreakable script, but as a way of forcing a conscious decision about how each block of time will actually be spent, rather than letting the day get colonized passively by whatever demands arrive first. He also recommends quantifying the depth of every task on your plate, asking how long it would take an average, untrained person to complete this task, as a way of exposing just how much of a typical day is actually filled with low-skill, replaceable activity dressed up as important work. Underneath all 4 rules sits a mechanism Newport returns to repeatedly, because it explains exactly why shallow work is so corrosive, even in small doses. Attention residue. When you switch from one task to another, especially before the first task is finished, part of your attention remains stuck on the original task. It doesn't fully transfer. This means that someone constantly toggling between deep work and quick email checks isn't actually working on 2 things efficiently. They're working on both poorly, because neither task is ever getting their full, unresidued attention. The cost of switching isn't just the time lost in the switch itself, it's the degraded quality of everything that follows it. Newport connects all of this back to research on deliberate practice, the well-established finding that genuine skill improvement requires focused attention on a specific stretch goal, paired with immediate feedback. Deliberate practice, by definition, cannot happen in a state of distraction. This means the shallow, fragmented way most people spend their working hours doesn't just fail to produce great output today. It actively prevents the kind of skill development that would make tomorrow's output any better either. Newport's claim is direct. If your capacity for depth is dissolving, the tasks you're able to do at all are shrinking along with it, whether or not you notice the shrinkage happening. Every rule, every mechanism, every piece of research Newport lays out points back to the same central claim the book opened with. Deep work isn't a nostalgic preference for a quieter era. It's a rare, valuable skill, actively deteriorating in most people through daily habits that feel harmless individually and prove devastating cumulatively. The professionals who deliberately protect and rebuild this capacity aren't working harder than everyone else in raw hours. They're working in a state almost nobody else has kept access to, producing output that shallow, fragmented effort structurally cannot match, no matter how many hours get poured into it. The question this book leaves behind isn't whether you're busy. Almost everyone is busy. The question is whether any of that busyness has actually been deep.